Hello my friends. I'm going to demonstrate and show how to remove a ring safely from a finger that the ring is stuck on. I'm also going to talk about some tools and their use and their safety. First of all, there's three different methods of removing a ring, and the first method most people are familiar with, and that is just soaking the ring in, or the finger, in cold water or ice water to help try to shrink the finger. Also putting soap on the finger to remove it. Now, I've never found much success with this method, so the other two methods are to simply cut the ring off, and there is a safe way of cutting and proper tools to use. And the third way is a method that my father showed me when I was very young, and this is the method that I prefer using. But the method of cutting the ring off, I would like to describe that in some detail here. First of all, the saws that are used or could be used, I would like to describe those. Some people want to use like heavy wire cutters or tin snips or even a bolt cutter. I can't see these functioning very well because you have a ring inside that, or a finger inside that ring, and it's already tight, and I can't see making a cut without cutting and injuring that finger. Okay, the first saw that I want to talk about is a hacksaw, and a hacksaw is designed to cut metal. This is not the preferred saw to be used. Another saw that some people might want to try to use is what is called a coping saw. Coping saw is designed to cut wood. If you can look closely, and I'll try to show the teeth here. I don't know if it's focusing or not, but those teeth are fairly large. A large tooth on a saw is going to grip that metal that you're trying to cut and pull it. It wants to take too big of a cut at one time. This is not designed for cutting metal. You might be able to find a blade that's a little bit finer, but basically it's designed for cutting wood. So this is a saw that I would not use. The saw that works the best, that should be used, looks like a coping saw, but it's not. This is called a jeweler's saw, and the frame of this is somewhat different than that coping saw. This has moving parts on its throat here, and that's for adjusting tension on the saw blade. The blade in this, there's none in there now, but the blade, I would like to try to show what the blade looks like. This is a coping saw blade, and this is a jeweler's saw blade. Now you can see teeth on this one. The jeweler's saw blade, the teeth are so fine I can't see the teeth. Even with my reading glasses, it's pretty hard. But to feel those teeth, I have to put that blade on my finger and feel which side has the teeth on it. This blade is then held inside the frame. Okay, this blade is so fine it cuts very smooth, and if done properly, you're not going to injure the finger while you're cutting. Okay, I would like to mention a few things about the saw, the hacksaw, because this hacksaw can cut, and it is used for cutting metal. I don't recommend it for cutting a ring off, but if someone doesn't have a choice, that's their only option. Okay, here's the hacksaw. And the blade here that's inserted into the frame, you can see here the teeth, I have an enlargement right here, the teeth on this point away from the handle. So the cutting is on the pushing stroke. Okay, now the teeth on all saw blades, including the jeweler's saw blade, even though you can't see it because it's so fine, but if you look here, this area here, this is an edge view of a blade. The teeth have a set pushed into them. One tooth goes in one direction, the following tooth pushes the other direction. Okay, this set creates a kerf in what you're cutting. The kerf is the slot, and it gives clearance for the blade to pass. A typical hacksaw blade is about 25 thousandths of an inch thick. This is a pretty large dimension when you're looking at a small object like a ring. If you're planning on saving that ring after it's been removed, even if it's been cut, you're removing a fairly large portion of that blade, and when it's soldered back together, you're going to be removing 25 thousandths or more, depending on that set of the blade, and that's going to cause that ring to be a smaller diameter when you're finished. And then that ring is going to have to be stretched, which can get it could get a costly repair to have that done. In addition to this set, the typical hacksaw blade has a wave in the blade. That wave also creates a larger set in that kerf, or not a set, a larger kerf or cut in the metal that you're cutting. The reason that they put a wave set is a hacksaw blade typically has 25 to 32 teeth per inch in its blade. That's a fairly small or fairly high number of teeth, which makes smaller teeth. And to create enough relief for this blade to pass through the cut, they put a wave set in it, which creates a larger kerf, larger cut. Okay, when the blades are put in the frame, the teeth are pointing away and the teeth are pointing down in the hacksaw. So the cut is on the push stroke. Now in the jeweler's saw and the coping saw, the teeth are pointing towards the handle. In this situation, the cut then is on a downward stroke. So it cuts as you're pulling. Now, when you cut a ring off, this is the only ring that I could find, okay, and that would normally be, oops, it won't come off. Well, it is a snug fit, but I can remove this ring. It's the only one I have, so I can't show one that's stuck. Now, when you're cutting with the hacksaw, you see here the teeth are pointing down and your finger is tight in that ring, and when you're cutting in the direction of the flesh, so most likely you're going to be injuring your finger. Now with the jeweler's saw, you place the blade into the frame. I can't hardly even pick that blade up. First I have to feel which side the teeth are on and which side is the cutting direction. So I could feel that. I place the blade in the frame on one end and secure it. There it's in. Then I snake or feed that blade underneath the ring in between my finger and the ring. I'll see if I can show that. Then it's secured on the top side. And I'm not going to do this because I'm not cutting the ring off. It's secured on. Now, the teeth is pointing away from my skin, away from the hand. So it's on the underside of the ring. So I'm going to be cutting from the underside of the ring, and the smooth part of that blade is against my skin. So the cutting is on the ring only, pushing away from the finger. Okay, it cuts on the pull stroke, so the only time you apply pressure to the saw blade is when you're pulling. Because this is such a fine blade, you have to let the blade do the work and let it take time to cut. It's going to take quite a number of strokes with the saw blade to make its way all the way through, because it's such a small tooth. It's only removing a little bit at a time. The teeth are very sharp. You can feel when you're touching that it does want to bite into the finger, even though it's so fine and so small. If you're cutting a ring that's real bulky and a hard metal, like this one I believe is stainless steel, you may have trouble spreading it. After you make that cut all the way through, you have to pry this somewhat open so that it makes the ring diameter effectively larger, and then it will slip off. If it's such a hard ring, what you may have to do is make a second cut at 180 degrees and remove that ring in 2 halves. After the ring is cut, it can be repaired. It can be hard soldered, and they use the metal. The solder is the same metal that the ring is, if it's a precious metal. If it's gold or silver, that's the type of solder that will be used to repair the ring. Okay, the third method of removing a ring, and as far as cutting the ring off, the only time I ever had to cut a ring off of a student or an individual was when they injured their finger and they stowed it and the finger swelled up, and they worked on trying to remove that ring so much it just added to the irritation, and the ring was so tight that it was acting like a tourniquet and stopping the blood flow in the finger, and the only method of removing that ring was to saw it off. Every other incident that I ever ran into, and I removed dozens of rings from individuals, it was with this third method that I prefer. Now, if that ring is on the finger and it's stuck, what you do is you take a piece of cord, and you'll need probably about 3 feet, maybe a little bit more, and you take the end of that cord and you feed it underneath the ring toward the heel of your hand. Okay, right there. And then pull the ring up right to where it's hanging up on the knuckle. You start winding this ring or string, and I have to see this. You have to put the cord or string close together. It's touching each other. So you make a continuous wrap all the way around the knuckle. And you continue this until you pass the knuckle, and it's snug, and I can feel the pressure in the end of my finger because it is acting like a tourniquet and it's squeezing it. Okay, now this tail end, we have to secure it. So I'm going to put a couple half loops in here to hold it because I don't have a free hand. There's one. Hopefully that'll hang in there. Okay, now you can see the wrap, and there's the tag end, the loose end. Now, this loose end here, what I want to do is start pulling on it and letting it unwind. As it's unwinding, you can see it's pushing that ring over the other pieces of cord and over the knuckle that is swollen until it gently removes it completely. And this has worked 100% of the time, as long as that finger isn't so swollen or the ring isn't crushed on there, that you don't need to remove the ring by cutting it. Many incidents that ring was borrowed, where a student took it from their home without their permission, and it may have been an heirloom. They slipped it on and they started panicking because they couldn't get it off and thought that by the time they get home they're going to get a good whooping. And by the time the ring gets to me to have it removed, the students were always in a panic, a lot of them in tears, and it always was a real good feeling, both to me and I think the student, to have that ring removed and not damaged in any way. So I hope this was very informative, and that you had a chance to watch this before the ring is stuck, so that you may be able to acquire either a jeweler's saw and have some cord around. Try the cord first before the saw. The saw, to me, is always the last resort. Well, have a good day, my friends. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.